What's up guys, Firewolf here, showing you guys the MSI MPG 271QRX. This is a 27-inch gaming monitor that features a blazing fast 360Hz refresh rate and a beautiful QD-OLED panel for amazing and deep blacks. Priced just under $800, I want to know if this monitor deserves a spot on your gaming desk setup. Diving into the specs, the 271QRX has a 3rd generation QD OLED panel with a 1440p resolution and a viewing size of 26.5 inches, which gives us a pixel density of about 111 pixels per inch. The screen is flat with an anti-reflective semi-gloss coating for amazing colors and clarity, but it does come with some cons which I'll cover later. Brightness is rated at a typical 250 nits and is VISA certified for both display HDR True Black 400 and Clear MR 13000. For colors, we have a 99% DCI P3 color gamut coverage and a factory calibrated Delta E less than 2 for amazing color accuracy. 360Hz is crazy fast, so baked into this monitor is AMD FreeSync Premium Pro and Adaptive Sync for smoother gameplay. There is no NVIDIA G-Sync compatible certification, but you can still enable it in the control panel using the Adaptive Sync that's built into the monitor. For connectivity, we have one DisplayPort 1.4a with downstream compression, two HDMI 2.1 ports that also support up to 360Hz, one USB-C DisplayPort with up to 90 watts of delivery, one 3.5mm headphone jack, and finally a USB upstream port with two USB-A ports. I love the wide range of inputs, especially with USB-C. Now, while I like to see a USB hub with a KVM switch, it's using a slower USB 2.0 bandwidth, but it's still good enough to connect your mouse and keyboard. The HDMI 2.1 ports are also full 48 gigabit bandwidth for both of these ports. Alright, with that out of the way, let's test out the gaming performance using both my white gaming PC build and black build, and stay tuned for PlayStation 5 gameplay. So what's it like to game in 360Hz? Well, I can tell you it's very smooth, and hitting 360 frames per second will depend on the game and of course the hardware you're running. To really appreciate it though, you really need to be playing fast-paced, action-focused games like Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, Fortnite, and Apex Legends, to name a few. You gain a slight competitive advantage over other gamers with slower FPS and response times, which can be the difference between life or death in a 1v1 or even a 1v-all. I had to use my white build with the RTX 4090 and Ryzen 9 7950X3D to hit around 360 frames per second in ultra graphic settings and DLSS set to ultra performance on Modern Warfare 3 to experience the max frames of this monitor. I think 1440p on a 27-inch monitor is a great sweet spot for both gaming performance and resolution. Now, it's not like 360 FPS will all of a sudden make you a dominant player. It just makes the experience ultra smooth, where you might actually be slightly better versus you playing on a slower monitor. Now, it's important to note that in order to enable 360Hz, you need to have display stream compression on, and that's whether you use DisplayPort or HDMI. You can turn off display stream compression in the menu settings, which will lock you to a max of 240Hz. Now, both HDMI and DisplayPort will allow you to enable 10-bit color, and it's up to you to decide which port you want to use. But just keep in mind that if you wanted to update the firmware on this monitor, you need to use DisplayPort and USB upstream connected to your PC, because HDMI 2.1 will not allow you to update the firmware. Talking about firmware, the latest update at the time of this video is 0.11, which was released in July of 2024. Now, back to gaming. 360Hz is awesome for fast-paced gaming, but it doesn't mean this monitor is not great for single-player gaming. QD-OLED makes gaming look amazing with gorgeous colors and creamy blacks. I mean, Black Myth Wukong looks fire on this monitor, and while I prefer 4K gaming, 1440p on this 26.5-inch screen is still eye candy. In SDR, you can make changes to the game mode filters, enable night vision intensity, which raises the black levels, and there's even an AI mode which automatically adjusts the black levels for you. In HDR, you have the options between HDR True Black 400 or HDR Peak 1000. HDR does lock you out of adjusting the brightness, contrast, and color temperatures, but it still lets you adjust different game modes and color modes. Now, depending on the game that you're playing, you may come across OLED VRR Flicker. This is something that is present in almost every OLED monitor, and is something that might ruin your experience if you have G-Sync or FreeSync enabled. In this example, whether gaming in SDR or HDR, you can notice a flicker in very dark scenes. You can also see this in game menus. Now, if that's something that really bothers you, you can turn off VRR. On this example, turning off G-Sync completely eliminates the flicker, so it's up to you to decide how you want to enjoy your gaming. For me, I don't mind that as much since most of the time it's non-existent in brighter scenes. Now for my next gen console gamers, the MSI 271QRX will give you max potential thanks to HDMI 2.1. You'll get full VRR support all the way up to 120Hz, auto low latency mode, and will be able to output 1440p resolution. The only downside though is that this monitor does not have built-in speakers, so you'll have to rely on either headphones or using the 3.5mm jack on the monitor to output to external speakers. Even though consoles aren't going to hit anything close to 360 FPS, I think this monitor is still a good choice if you want to experience a 27-inch QD OLED display with that nice semi-gloss coating. Taking a break from gaming, the design of this monitor is fire. Everything looks and feels premium, and I really like the all black aesthetic. The MSI dragon on the back looks really cool, but I wish they would have added RGB lighting on that dragon. Instead, the MSI logo on the back has a subtle RGB lighting that you can customize in the menu settings. The front of the monitor features a borderless design on the top 3 sides with a slim line on the bottom with the letters MSI that screams for attention. A darker contrast would have been better, or better yet, that dragon logo would have looked awesome instead. Now I really like the base stand of this monitor, which saves precious desk space, and the whole stand has some good weight to it. Cables can be routed through the cable management slot, making your setup nice and clean. The stand also features height adjustments, swivel, tilt, and can even pivot both ways for an awesome vertical screen setup. The weight of the stand and base makes it very sturdy and stable, which is great. And you can also VESA mount a monitor arm instead if you prefer. Taking a closer look at the display of the MSI MPG 271QRX, we get an awesome anti-reflective semi-gloss coating which gives it amazing clarity. It's visually superior over matte displays since the colors and blacks really pop, especially at night. But the downside with this semi-gloss coating is that it will reflect light sources and can be harder to use in very bright setups and direct sunlight. If you don't have proper lighting control or have the monitor positioned adjacent or opposite to a window, you might see that reflect on your monitor, which can be distracting. There's also raised blacks and the purplish tint, which is present on every QD OLED monitor but is only noticeable if there's intense lighting. As long as you keep those things in mind, this monitor display should not disappoint you. Brightness on this monitor is rated for a typical 250 nits, which is standard on this generation of 1440p QD OLED panels. I measured a peak SDR brightness of 267 nits on a 2% window and 263 nits on a 100% window. In my personal experience, the brightness is good enough for everyday use. Now in HDR, we have two different modes, True Black 400 or HDR Peak 1000. On True Black 400, I measured a peak of 475 nits on a 1% window and 273 nits on a 100% window. And when I switch it over to HDR Peak 1000, of course the peak brightness is higher with a peak of 1031 nits on a 1% window and 261 nits on a 100% window. Both HDR modes have their strengths, so you can always choose between the two and see which you prefer depending on the game or content. Text clarity on this monitor is good for a 26.5-inch 1440p screen. With a pixel density of about 111 pixels per inch, small details and text still look sharp. Whether you're typing up long Word documents, spreadsheets, or browsing the web, you'll have a nice OLED experience. This third generation QD OLED panel also has a better sub-pixel layout where color fringing is almost non-existent. A feature I love to see on monitors is USB-C DisplayPort and an added bonus of a KVM switch. You can easily connect your MacBook or gaming laptop using a single USB-C, and with the convenience of a built-in KVM switch, I can have my keyboard and mouse connected to this monitor and we'll be able to use them seamlessly. You can manually select between USB-B or USB-C for the KVM switch, but the auto KVM switch works really good, letting me switch between my gaming PC and laptop seamlessly. I still wish MSI would have included a faster USB 3.2 bandwidth instead of the USB 2.0. Using the Aurora 16X connected via USB-C gives me the full 360Hz refresh rate, which is awesome. Now for my Mac users, I was able to get 240Hz refresh rate over USB-C on my base M3 MacBook Pro, And you do have to enable Type-C charging in the menu settings. With it on though, your laptop will be able to charge over USB-C at a rate of 90 watts of power delivery. macOS looks great on this QD OLED display, and switching between gaming PC to macOS with KVM makes it an easier experience. Accessing the menu is located right behind the MSI logo, which features a 4-directional joystick and 2 short keys on the back. Right on the top, we have quick input details, with the first menu option being GI, which is short for Gaming Intelligence. This is where we can adjust the KVM switch, enable Smart Crosshair, which has 6 different designs, and can automatically change colors depending on the screen. Optic Scope gives you a zoom box that can zoom from 1.5x all the way up to 4x, which you can then also adjust the size of the box. Now keep in mind that this will disable adaptive sync. The next menu setting is gaming, which allows you to change many game mode settings, which I already covered. And in this gaming section is where you can also enable adaptive sync, and you can enable or disable downstream compression. In professional, you can change things like color settings. You can even enable low blue light for less eye fatigue. And if you select eco mode, it does meet the requirements for TÜV Rheinland's low blue light standard. Moving on to image, we can adjust things like brightness and contrast, and here's where you can switch to different display HDR modes. You can also change the screen size all the way down to 24.5 inches, but that also disables adaptive sync. All these menu settings gives you many ways to customize your experience, and you can also download MSI's Gaming Intelligence software to make most of those changes that you need. Now, when it comes to OLED burn-in, MSI has a lot of built-in features to help prevent it from happening with MSI's OLED Care 2.0. I like how there's a dedicated MSI OLED Care menu, and you have things like pixel shift, panel protect, static screen detection, multi-logo detection, taskbar detection, and finally boundary detection. Each of these options allows you to further customize, which you can also turn off as well. Now, panel protect will automatically activate after 4 hours of use, but after your monitor turns off, which usually lasts a few minutes. I also like the OLED panel info section, which lets you know how many times panel protect was performed and how long it's been since that last panel protect. With all those OLED protection features baked in, MSI also takes it further by giving you a 3-year OLED burn-in warranty just in case. So to the ultimate question, does the MSI MPG 271QRX gaming monitor worth a spot in your gaming desk setup? If you're looking for an awesome 27-inch 1440p QD OLED that delivers amazing colors and clarity with up to 360 Hz, then this monitor is a solid choice. You're getting a lot of gaming features, factory color calibration, and a great selection of inputs. USB-C is a feature that I always look for in a monitor, and with HDMI 2.1, this monitor comes in clutch for both laptop users and even console gamers. The semi-gloss coating looks fire, but keep in mind that reflection of light sources may impact your experience. Of the 360Hz QD OLED monitors I've tested so far, Samsung G6 OLED and Alienware AW2725DF, I would personally lean more towards the MSI because of USB-C DisplayPort and the full 48GB HDMI 2.1 support. Prices for 1440p OLED monitors have been coming down, and this being priced just below $800 for all the features it has is a great value. So I really think the MSI MPG 271QRX deserves a spot on your gaming desk setup if you want to experience some awesome QD OLED gaming. If you're interested in getting this monitor or the many tech that you've seen in this video, I will have a few links down below, which also helps in support the Firewolf Tech channel. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and I would love your support with a like, share, and subscribe. Firewolf out.